Namaste student. Today we are going to start the next chapter in class 10, that is metals and non-metals. Today our topic for discussion is comparison of physical properties of metals with non-metals. These physical properties of non-metal and metals have been taught to you since from the lower classes. So in this class what we are going to do is we are going to discuss about these physical properties along with exception in detail. Okay, so let us come on to our today's topic. Okay, so regarding there are basically two types of properties on which metals and non-metals are classified. The first property is your known as physical properties. The second property is known as your chemical properties. So these physical properties have been taught to you since from the lower classes, but these chemical properties, these are taught only in this class. So let us come on to our topic. So physical property is, the first one is your physical state, the second one is your hardness, the third one is your luster, that means sign, and the fourth one is your melting and boiling point. The fifth one is conduction of heat and electricity. The sixth one is malleability. The seventh is your ductility. Eight, tensile strength. Ninth, density, and the last one is sonorosity. Okay, we'll discuss these physical property one by one in detail. And regarding the chemical properties associated with metals and non-metals are reactions of metals with oxygen, reaction of metal with water, reaction of metal with acids, reactions of metals with other metal salts, and reaction of metal with non-metals. So you can see that in this class we are going to discuss mostly the chemical and physical property associated with metals only. Okay, so only one property associated with non-metal, that is reaction of metal with non-metal. Okay, so let us come on to the our today's topic. Today's the very first physical property associated with metals and non-metal is physical state. Okay, so means in which state they are found. So metals are generally found in solid state at room temperature. The example for these metals are copper, aluminium, iron. Okay, so what about the non-metals? Non-metal can exist in solid state or also in gaseous state. So you will find that the non-metal both in solid as well as gaseous state. So what are those gaseous? Oxygen, nitrogen, they are in gaseous state, and sulfur and boron, they are in solid state. So in spite of these, there are some exceptions also. Okay, the metals like mercury and gallium, they are found in liquid state above 30 degrees Celsius. Means nowadays if the temperature is greater than 30 degrees Celsius, so these two metals they will be found in liquid state. Okay, so what about non-metals? The non-metal bromine can exist only in liquid state. So one metal and one non-metal which is generally found in liquid state is, one is your mercury, another is your bromine. Okay, now let us discuss the second property, that is hardness. Hardness means metals are very hard and non-brittle in nature. Means non-brittle means it will not break when strike with a hammer. Okay, it will not break into small pieces. Example for that is your chromium, tungsten, osmium, titanium. So here there are four metals. Among these the chromium is the hardest metal. Okay, so this chromium, that's why it is used for making cutting tools. It can be used for cutting other metals which is less hard. Now what about non-metals? Non-metals are generally softer than metals and brittle in nature. Okay, so they are obviously softer. And what about brittle? Means when you are striking the non-metal with a hammer, it will break into small pieces just like a glass. Okay, so they are brittle in nature. Examples of non-metal are sulfur, phosphorus, graphite. Okay, so like physical state, here also there is exception, that is metals like sodium, potassium, lithium are soft and can be cut with a sharp knife. Okay, so these metals are so soft that if you have a knife, you can cut into very small thin slice. Okay, so what about non-metals like boron and diamonds? They are very hard. And as you can see in the here, diamond, a form of carbon, is the hardest known substance of the earth crust. So among all the substances of the earth crust, the diamond is the hardest of them and it is a non-metal. Okay, now come on to the next property, that is luster, or this property is also known as metallic shine. So what are called these? Metal generally have shining surface or are lustrous in nature. Means they are very, their surface of the metals are very shiny in nature. Okay, so examples of these shiny metals are gold, silver, platinum, copper, aluminium, etc. In all these cases, you will find that the metals are very shiny in nature. What about non-metals? Non-metals are generally dull surface or non-lustrous in nature. Okay, examples are sulfur, boron, phosphorus. Okay, although they have the color, but they are not shiny in nature. Among like that also, here also exception is there. So metals like sodium, potassium are non-lustrous. Okay, so they will not emit any color or they will not shine above. Okay, what about non-metals? Iodine is the only non-metal which is shiny and impart violet color to the crystal. So it is generally found in a crystalline form and it will impart a violet color. Okay, so metals like gold, platinum and silver, they are used for making jewelry. The reason behind it is they are very shiny metals, or that's why they are very costly metals and they are used for making jewelries. Okay. Now next property, melting and boiling point. Metals have high melting and boiling point. Example is tungsten, osmium, titanium, iron. Among these, the tungsten is having the highest melting point among all the metals. Okay. What about non-metals? Non-metals have the low melting point and boiling point as compared to metals. The example is phosphorus, sulfur, iodine. Among these, the phosphorus is having the very low melting point. Okay, so let us see the exception here. In exception, the metals like cesium and gallium have melting point less than 30 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that means it is having very low melting point. It can, for example, cesium having a melting point 28.7 degrees Celsius, gallium 30 degrees Celsius. So non-metals like boron, diamonds have high melting point greater than 2000 degree Celsius. That means it non-metals also have very high melting point. Among these, one is boron, another is diamond. The diamond in fact have the highest melting point, that is more than 3500 degree Celsius. Now as you can see, the tungsten metal is used for making filaments of incandescent light bulb. Okay, the previously the light bulb, they have filaments and that filament is made up of tungsten. The reason behind it is it is having highest melting point. Okay. Now, the next property is conduction of heat and electricity. Okay, so metals are good conductor of heat and electricity due to presence of mobile free electrons. Okay, so among these there are two kinds of conductivity. So thermal conductivity, thermal means heat. Okay, so silver and copper, they are the best conductor of heat, followed by aluminium and iron. Okay, so what about the electricity? Electrical conductivity, silver, again silver and copper, they are the best conductor of electricity, followed by gold and aluminium. Okay, so what about non-metals? Non-metals are generally bad conductor of heat and electricity. Example is same sulfur, phosphorus, boron, etc. Okay, so what about the exception? Metals like lead, mercury are poor conductor of heat. So although they are metal, they are poor conductor of heat. Okay, so let us come on to the exception in non-metals. Non-metals, the graphite is a good conductor of electricity. Unlike non-metals, graphite is a good conductor. Okay, so metals like copper and aluminum, they are used for making electrical wires. Why? Because they are good conductor of electricity. Okay, now here are the questions from the topics which we have discussed today. Please go through these questions and answer these questions in your homework notebook. Thank you.